Thanks, guys, for showing up today on a Friday, probably afternoon for most of you. My name's Tasha. I'll be running this little closing training. And so let me just go ahead and go through what we're going to go over today. We need to have an honest conversation about, good hair day, right? About what's hard about sales and what's hard about closing and selling kits just in general. We'll talk about, you're probably wondering who the heck is this Tasha person and why is she qualified to teach me anything? So I think that's a very valid question, so we'll cover that too. We'll talk about like an overview of closing and then 5 areas that make closing an enjoyable process for you and your customer. This is not a teaser webinar. Have you guys ever been on a webinar? It shows up in your Facebook feed and it's like, this will solve all your problems. And then 2 hours later, all you know is the speaker's life story and that you need to spend $2,000 to implement anything. Have you guys ever been on a webinar like that? Okay, so I hate those. So I promise that I will not do that to you guys today. I cannot teach you everything I know about sales in an hour-ish. But we will give you an hour's worth of our best stuff and you will be able to go make sales right away. Is that a fair deal? At the end, we do have a program because I cannot teach you everything in an hour. It's not something that you have to sign up for. You'll have a lot of good stuff today, but if you'd like to, we definitely want to invite you into the next step. So my goal in the first hour and 10 minutes or so is to earn that right. Deal? All right, cool. So before we jump in, I think, Dawna, thank you for hosting our party today. Class.
Hi, it is my pleasure.
Yeah, do you want to just, since you have your team, why did you want to set this up?
So I wanted to set this up because, as my team may or may not know, I get a lot of people come to me who are from outside sources, and Tasha was not one of them. But I get a lot of people who come to me and say, Dawna, you're a presidential diamond, you have a big team, so I want to show you what I've got and I want you to market it to your team. And you'd be surprised how much I get of that in my email. And so I say no to most of them because I don't feel that it's either appropriate for our team, or I feel like we already have that, or we have something that looks similar, or it just doesn't feel like my gut isn't saying yes to it. A friend of mine actually who knows about you, Tasha, he actually came to me and said, Dawna, you got to check this girl out, because I think there's something here that has been missing in my business, and I'm seeing some major results from it. And again, my first gut reaction was, oh, here goes another one. But something inside of me just said, Dawna, check this one out. And so I did. I checked out this webinar, and some of you who are on here may have even seen it, but I checked it out and I was blown away at how, and you're going to hear it and see it today, but how practical the advice that Tasha is bringing today is going to be. It blew me away, and it was a missing piece in my business. And so already, I don't know, Tasha, can I tell them already what results I'm seeing?
Yeah, for sure.
One of my leaders came to me and she said, Dawna, that webinar blew me away. And so I had this girl who had a lavender. She wanted a lavender from me. And this is just one example. Had a lavender from me, and that's all she wanted. And after watching the webinar, I took notes. I memorized some of the scripts that I learned from it. I went out, and that day, she not only did she want that lavender, but because she was on the fence a little bit, even though she wanted the lavender, but she ended up buying a home essentials kit from her just by like watching this kind of webinar. And I thought, my whole team needs to see this, because honestly, Tasha, we have been talking about sharing, and a lot of people are afraid of feeling pushy and salesy, and we just need something that's going to take us from point A to point Z in a practical step, because we've been missing that on our team. And Holly, my presidential diamond on my team, and I were talking yesterday, and she agrees that we need this. And so we were both really intrigued by what you had to say, and we had to bring it to our teams.
Cool. Well, thanks for doing that. And I love hearing those success stories. That's what we're here for. And so that's a great segue into the first thing that we should talk about for the first few minutes. Dawna mentioned not wanting to be pushy. What are some other challenges that you guys have with this whole sales thing? So just lay it on me. Someone's going to have to be brave and go first. But what's hard about closing and making sales? And go ahead, Sandra.
I think part of like addressing the person's needs. So I know in a lot of the closing, like the files or whatever you can find where they say like address their needs and ask them how serious they are about it. I think feeling like I don't know enough about what they might be struggling with, and then saying like, okay, yeah, I don't know what would be best for you. So then I just kind of like step back and say like, hey, because I'm not sure, I don't even know what to recommend. So I'm just like, okay, well, you think about it and then let me know. And let me know means nothing to anybody. Yeah. Like we don't even know what that means, right? So I think just feeling like I'm not knowledgeable enough to make a recommendation or say something and kind of guide that person to what would actually be best for them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So not knowing enough. I see in the chat, confidence, right? The whole money thing. Who struggles with the whole money conversation? Yeah. What else do we have here coming in the chat? Asking them to spend more money on a bigger kit or just asking for the sale?
I find the biggest problem for me is that there's so much information. The people are excited, but they have so many questions, and to get everything done in a concise amount of time, but yet to get them what they need specifically to choose the appropriate kit.
Yeah, that's great. So there's just so much info to go over. Do you ever feel like customers might get a little overwhelmed? And
all the time.
Are you trying to balance the what's enough info for them? Like, is it too much? Is it too little? Okay.
Yeah.
Someone put like MLM. Does anyone just struggle with not wanting to be that person? Yeah, some. Okay. Enough for me to write it down? Okay. What are some other challenges that you guys are having?
I think the LRP thing for me tends to be, again, on that big information. We want to set them up on an LRP. They're excited, but trying to get them all that information, it's overwhelming. So it tends to go into more steps.
Yeah, so overwhelming, people can't decide, right? Then how do you follow up with them? Yeah, there's a lot. So kind of here's what I wrote down. Let me see if we got some. Okay, finding a really good statement. Does anybody even just wondering, what do I say? Like, do you just kind of, anyone get to the end and it's just kind of weird? I'm the only one who feels that way when I close. Right? Like it's, okay, here's all this great info, and then there's like this dun 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 moment, right? Okay, what do I say? Following up, Catherine says following up. And just keeping it simple. Okay. Okay, so here's what I wrote down. So we have the things that are hard about selling and closing. We don't want to come across pushy. We might not know enough to address their needs thoroughly. Sometimes we're not so confident. We're worried about talking about money or asking for the sale. Following up, like how many times to follow up? How do I know how much information to give them? I don't want to come across as that person. Now I want to get them on LRP, and so that's overwhelming. Customers can't decide, so then of course we're following up and trying to help them, and sometimes I don't even know what to say. Is that a pretty good list of what's hard about the whole selling thing? Okay, cool.
Tasha, I have one more.
Go ahead, Sandy.
Sometimes if people are coming in with things that are a little bit more complicated, that they need support with, and I know that the home essentials kit won't be the things. It's like that's where I feel like, okay, well, I don't want to come across like I can help fix everything, but I want to. And so as I watched the video the other day, I'm like, okay, what do we do when there's something that they have that they need more than the home essentials? Where do you go with that?
Sure. So hold that question.
Okay.
Since we do only have an hour today. And if we get to the end and if we jam, maybe we'll get there. Kristen, can you write that down?
And the whole LLV, like that to me is yeah.
Yeah. And so that's kind of a later thing, Sandy, if you've already watched this.
Okay.
Like I said, there's only so much we can do in 1 hour. But we cover a lot of that in our program and how to do that. So we have you covered long term.
Awesome.
Just maybe not for the webinar.
Tasha, what about people who sign up, they're excited, and then you try to meet with them, you do have that scheduled time, or you've decided to schedule with them and suddenly they've gone missing? Like, where are they? What happened? So they have a kit, they've gotten it, you've attempted, they've rescheduled or haven't even returned your calls to do the overview, and what do you do?
Sure. So so customer retention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So today we're going to talk more about like the first sale. But I can, Kristen, if you want to write that down, if we have time at the end, and we'll see if we can give it a shot. Okay, cool. So I think we have a good list, and I think most of these we can handle today. The customer retention ones, maybe if we get to the end and we have a little bit of extra time, but the other ones I feel pretty good about being able to handle. So let me just tell you a little bit about my background. So I am not an active doTERRA wellness advocate, but don't hang up the phone. Don't hang up yet, because I have one redeeming quality. And my one redeeming quality is that I am a very active doTERRA customer. So my background is in sales. So has anyone ever heard of Cutco knives? I don't know, you guys are in Canada. The factory is right there in Ole, like over by Buffalo, so we're not too far. And so basically in college, my job was to sell knives. And then after college, I was promoted. So my job was to teach 18-year-old college students how to sell $1,000 sets of knives to housewives when their husband weren't home. They're not home, and then get 10 to 15 referrals. So that was my job. And I did pretty well. I personally sold over $120,000 worth of knives, and my offices did 1.2 million. Then in my mid-20s, it was time to get a real job. And so I had a corporate sales manager job. So I was a new hire trainer, recruiting manager for a long time. I'd risen to basically the top role that I was eligible for in my company. And it was about 2 years ago that I started getting a little bit restless. So I don't know if you can tell from my closet there. Any guesses how old the kiddos are? Come on. Okay, 5. So Haley turns 5 in August, and then Zoe is 7. Yeah, good job, guys. You guys are awesome. So the kids are 5 and 7 now, which means about 2 years ago they were 3 and 5. And so I live in Southern California, so I was commuting 1 hour and 15 minutes to my job where my salary was capped. I was in the same role for 8 years because I'd risen to the top, and I was driving 1 hour and 15 minutes each way, and my kids were 3 and 5. What do you guys think about that? Good or bad? Lame, right? So I thought, okay, well, I got to figure something out, and I want to work from home. And so I thought, well, I'll just start a sales training company. So I put up a website, started tinkering around, and I knew, that's what I know how to do. I need to know how to teach people to sell stuff. So I put up a little podcast. And so it was October, a year and a half ago, when I was at karate with the kids, and one of my friends came up to me and said, I think she had her eyes closed, and she hands me a card. She's like, will you come to my essential oils class? And so I said to her snarkily, sure, I'll come to your essential oils class if you listen to my podcast. Right? That's a fair deal. Would you guys take that deal? Listen to the podcast? Okay, cool. So I went to the class. Well, she listens to the podcast, and so she sends me a text like, hey, I think I want to hire you. And I was like, oh, shoot, I don't even know what to do. So I threw out a number, and we were going to start working together. And so I go to the class, and is it okay if I level with you guys? I have Catherine's permission to tell this story. I'm going to be pretty real and raw today. Is that okay with you guys? Okay. It was pretty bad. It was hard. So I want you guys to just take a journey through the customer's eyes. So I go to the class, and guess how many other customers showed up at the class? Other than me. 0. I was the only customer at the class. But how many wellness advocates were there? There were 3, not 5, right? So we have Catherine. We have Catherine's enroller, obviously. And then we have Catherine's potential new builder. So 3 salespeople on 1 customer. How do you think that feels? Not great. Well, we had to wait for the other people to show up, right? The other people. And so obviously we would do a Zyto scan. I'd never heard of essential oils before in my life, but now I have a 3-page report on all the essential oils my body needs. How do you think that felt? Okay. What's an essential oil? Also, a little background I failed to mention. My dad's an internist and my in-laws are pharmacists. So I'd really never heard of it, essential oil. Like really never. And so so we start the class, right? We play bingo with 1 person. Haley is obviously losing her mind because that's what 3-year-olds do in this kind of situation. And I learned everything I would ever need to know about essential oils. And Catherine, like those guys were great. They were awesome. They were super smart, right? Really knowledgeable. But it was pretty overwhelming. I get to the end and I buy a bottle of Serenity for Haley, who's losing her mind, and a bottle of Deep Blue Rub because I commute. And then I pay the $35 enrollment fee. Yeah, right? But there was the really good news about that class is I did win the drawing. Right? I won the drawing. And so we went home with a breathe stick. And you guys know that that stuff is amazing. Like it's awesome. So my daughter Zoe was on Singulair every day. And we just brought that stuff on her chest and she doesn't need it anymore. What's up with that? She stopped getting her postnasal drip. She stopped coughing. And I was like, what is this hippie stuff? So I go to work on Monday. And, you're doing the office talk, small talk. How was your weekend? I was like, guys, I bought a bunch of hippie oils. And they were like, you bought hippie oils? That's weird. But if you bought them, they must be good. We'll take some too. And so I figured out that I needed a kit. And so I ordered a family physician's kit at the time. And then my friends ordered another $100. We put in a one-time order. Ouch. $250 one-time order? Ouch. Because all this was before my wellness consult on Wednesday because I finally got it. So did Catherine do anything wrong? No, not at all, right? She did everything, right. But it was really confusing and overwhelming. So I started working with her and she went from making, and so this is US, right? So you guys can adjust for what makes sense here. So I started coaching Catherine and she went from making $50 a month for 2 years straight to $450 that next month. Her enroller was like, what is this? So I started coaching her enroller and her enroller then enrolled 12 people in 1 month. Then I started coaching her enroller and then her enroller, when I started coaching her enroller, she happens to be a Blue Diamond. And so we actually coached her, all of her silvers and above. So there's 35 of them in the group coaching program I'll show you guys later. And their team last September went from 396 enrollments to almost 800 enrollments the following month. So then I started coaching her enroller, and really, since January, Kristen and I really haven't slept since. Have you guys, I don't know what it's like in Canada. Do you guys, does it ship from Canada or does it ship from US? Both, okay. Well, here in the US, the Home Essential Kit has sold out 4 times in the past 6 months. Is that normal? Exactly. Right? And the reason I tell you this story is not to do the whole talking about myself thing, but I really want to help you guys understand the customer experience. I don't come at you as your upline who says, guys, we need to sell more stuff. I come to you as your customer who is begging you, for the love of God, will you please sell us kits? Please. Because you guys remember I bought Serenity in Deep Blue, right? Does that help me when my daughter is puking? What do I need? Are you losing my sound? Or other people's sound?
Yeah, I think you're good. It must be connection, just depending on connection for people.
Oh, internet for people. Okay. Well, I'll switch the headset and see if that helps a little bit. I need a kit, right? And it doesn't help me if I'm educated on essential oils, right? Because if my kid is sick, does this piece of paper help me? Can I rub this piece of paper on my kid's feet? No. What do I actually need? I actually need a kit, not one or two things. I need a kit, right? And so I'm just gonna beg you guys, sell us kits. Help us to buy kits. And so here's a core Emerge training philosophy. The customer, and so this is the first thing you can write down. Customers first, my team second, and myself and my ego third. What do you guys think about that philosophy? Now, if your customers are happy with their kits, how is your team going to do? Good. And if your team is doing well, how are you doing? Yeah. So we're here to help the customers. Who here believes in the life-changing properties of your product? Okay. So then I will argue that you have an ethical and moral obligation to learn how to sell well. Because if you don't know how to sell well, I'm in trouble, right? Because then I don't have a kit, and then I don't have options. What do you guys think about that? Yeah? But selling is gross. I don't want sales training. Salespeople, they're the worst, right? Totally the worst. And so we don't want to learn how to sell because selling is icky, it's gross. We don't want to be that person, right? Have any of you said, I don't sell, I'm not a salesperson? Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is like we share, right? So we don't sell because we don't want to become that person. And so we shy away from sales training. We say, we're not going to do it. I'm not going to learn how to do it. No way, right? And so we go over here and we do a mindset training, right? And then we learn. So what are we left with? If we don't know how to sell, what are we left with? We're left with telling our story and following up, right? We tell our story, we follow up. So here's my question for you guys. Can you think of anything more high pressure and pushy than talking about yourself and following up till someone buys or dies? And so in an effort to not be that person, who have we become? Go ahead, Marianne. Here, I'll unmute you. Go ahead, Marianne.
That person.
That person. Oops. Have you guys ever worked with a good salesperson? A good one. How does that feel? Go ahead and unmute yourself and tell me.
I used to actually be that salesperson. And so my quality of standard when I was dealing with salespeople was to be at that level where I felt like I was important, that it was about me and my needs being met, not trying to sell me a product. And so whenever I would go into a store for something different than what I used to sell, I was very skeptical, very picky about who I chose to deal with. And if I didn't like the way the person was coming across, I could tell right away that's a salesy person rather than a fill my need, loving person.
Totally. So when you work with a good salesperson, you feel like your needs are met.
Yep.
right? They care about you. Is it a good experience or a bad experience to work with a good salesperson?
That's good.
It's great, right? So, working with a great salesperson is a joy to work with. And so that's where we want to get you guys to, right? Instead of being that person, let's get you to be good at what you do so you can help the people, right? But another reason we run away from sales training is because a lot of it's like gross, right? I call it reactive sales training. Have you guys ever heard of the term overcoming objections? And it's like rebuttal training, like, oh, come on, it's just a Frappuccino a day, right? You're trying to convince the customer they're wrong. Do any of you guys like to say that? Not me. Yuck, right? So I don't want that kind of sales training. And the other reactive approach is the follow-up strategy. How many times have you been taught to follow up? 5 times? 10? Just keep
It's
going.
an ongoing thing. It's all the time. People are trying to follow up.
Yeah. So it goes like this. Here you go. Here's the sample. How about now? How about now? What about now? How about now? Is now good? How about now? How about now? Who here likes to do that? No? You guys don't like to do that? But sometimes it works, right? Have you guys ever followed up with someone and it did in fact work? Right? And they did end up buying. You followed up with them 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and then they ended up getting something, right? So it does work to an extent. And then you're like, yes, I got an enrollment. Here's my chance. Want to do the business? And they're like, hold on. You want me to give away free product, follow up for 6 months, and then I'll make $22? That sounds awesome. Sign me up. Or we're sitting there, we're like, I have a recruiting problem. Do you have a recruiting problem? Or do you have a sales problem? Because who wants to do that? I don't want to do that. I'm super lazy. I'm not that lazy, but when it comes to sales, I don't want to follow up 7 times. So what we do is we teach proactive closing. And so proactive closing is just handling the reasons that people don't buy before they come up. So that way, at the end, they just buy on the first time, and you don't have to follow up. What do you guys think about that? Would that be cool? That just you don't really have to follow up that much anymore, and they just buy on the first appointment. Because don't we already know all the reasons customers won't buy? Yeah? Okay. So let's do a little brainstorm. I think some of them came up earlier, but what are the different reasons that customers don't buy? What do they say to you?
I don't have money.
Okay. What else?
Too much information to process.
Yep. So I need to think about it. Got it. Sorry, I missed one that I think we spoke at the same time.
Yeah, more research. I have to look into this further.
Yeah. And you're like, I just spent 2 hours telling you everything. What the heck? Okay, what else? Check with my spouse. Yep. What else?
They say I need to digest all this information first.
Mm-hmm. Don't want to commit. I have commitment issues too. What else?
People are afraid to change from what they know to something that they don't know.
Sure. Change. I want to see how it works. I only use 1 or 2. Another company is cheaper.
Your kits don't have everything that I need.
So okay, so don't need what comes in the kit.
Yeah, like if they want different things, they want the supplements, or they want
Sure.
a deep blue rub, or instead of the oils.
Okay. But that's not you. But they still usually buy something, right?
Well, instead of a kit though, right? Then they're like what you did. Then they buy one thing.
Oh yeah.
Or 2
Okay.
things with the membership. So how to convert that to a kit instead.
Yeah. Okay.
I had a class yesterday where they were expecting me to show up with product that they would purchase from me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did the whole process. And then I think it was complex for them. Then I got all the Like initially they were ready to buy from me if I had it on the table, but then they got into the process. It seemed complicated, and then it was the money issue. And then I'll think about it. And this was
Sure.
great, and I didn't realize.
Yeah, okay. So we got the money issue, think about it. I'm just writing down customers want to customize their kit.
Membership come through, afraid of membership.
Okay. All right, cool. So I wrote down, I think we've got some good ones here.
Some people don't actually have a credit card. I've come across that a couple times, or their Visa debit, it's not accepted online. So that can deter people.
Okay, so that one's probably one that doesn't have a whole lot to do with so much with closing, but we can write it down. Okay. Okay, so here's what I wrote down to be the core issues. They don't feel like they can afford it. It's too much information to process. You need to think about it. You need to do more research, talk to their house, digest all the info. They're afraid of committing or changing. They want to see how it works and maybe only want 1 or 2 oils. They think they can go get it from another company cheaper. They want to customize the kit. They want to think about it, or they're wary of memberships. Is that most of them? I mean, I know we have like the credit card one, and that's kind of a unique one. Is that most of them? Is that good? Okay. So we have a saying at Emerge. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me every day of my career, shame on me. So if we already know these are going to come up, we shouldn't be surprised anymore that they do. And so what if instead of writing, like we just wrote the presentation so that these didn't come up anymore, and at the end they just bought? Would that be helpful? All right, cool. So should we go ahead and dig in? How are we doing so far? So far so good? Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and go into the 5 areas that help to make closing an enjoyable process for you and your customer. All right, the first one is to set up an appointment. So don't sell on the fly. What's selling on the fly? So you go to the park and you have your doTERRA hat, your doTERRA backpack, and your doTERRA keychain on. And then what happens? Oh my gosh, doTERRA comes up in conversation. What luck. And so somebody asks a question about doTERRA, and then what do? Be honest. Go ahead, Erin. I'll go ahead and unmute you.
We have verbal diarrhea all over them about doTERRA and how amazing it is.
And it is amazing, right? And so we tell them everything we know. And then what happens to their face, Erin?
They like back away from you like, oh my goodness. They get overwhelmed. The enthusiasm is not as contagious as we hoped it would be.
Yeah. And then we see that look on their face. And then what do? We talk faster.
Oh, yeah.
We double down. Oh no, I'm losing them.
Let me give you a sample.
Yeah. And so then what happens to their face?
They drop, because then all of a sudden it's not about them, it's about me. Yeah.
And so they kind of back away and they're like, yeah, cool. Talk to you later, right? Yeah, now, does that person buy a kit? And so who misses out here? The customer. Who really benefits the most from the sale of the kit? You are the customer, right? Could you even imagine? I'm going to be super mean to you right now. Someone broke in your house and they took all your oils last night, and you have nothing, and you have to go the next 6 hours without oils.
I had that actually happen in my car, and it was awful. It was the worst experience ever, and my kids were sick.
Yeah, that's the same. That's our lives.
Yep.
Right? And so we have to remember that it is the customer who benefits the most from the sale of the kit. And the reason that that doesn't help, right, when you're talking to them like that, is because they're not in a position to make a decision on whether or not they can buy, right? In that situation, can they make that decision? No. And so the decisions end up being no, right? I want you to imagine that your essential oil business is growing so fast that you need to hire a virtual assistant. right? You're really stressed out because you have to write a contract. And so you go to a wedding and you're stressed out, and what luck, you run into a contracts lawyer. Does that contracts lawyer tell you everything he or she knows about contracts? Why not? It's not the place.
That would be boring.
It'd be boring, yeah, Joanna. Totally. Overwhelming, too much info. Would you be able to digest any of that? No. And so what does a contracts lawyer suggest? Set an appointment. Yeah, right? And who does that help the most? The customer, right? The client, right? And by proxy, it helps a contracts lawyer. And so what if we did the same thing? What if instead of overloading them with information, we just set up an appointment? And so you're thinking, okay, that sounds great, Tasha, but what do I even say? So here's what you would say. So let's say that same scenario comes up, right? And then we start talking about essential oils. Instead of telling him everything I know about essential oils, instead I'll say, well, usually what I do is set up an appointment. We'll go over your health goals, a little bit about the company, and the most popular kits. My part takes about 30 minutes. You don't have to buy anything, but if you see something you like, I'll help you order it. Is that something you'd be open to? How do you think most people would respond? Yeah. Why? Why do you think people respond so well to that? You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
It sounds straightforward.
Yeah.
Simple.
They have the choice.
They have the choice, right? So I'm going to tell them exactly what we're going to cover. We got to talk about it a little bit. Like, why do people have their walls up with network marketers? Because they're sneaky sometimes, right? Like you'll say one thing, but it's another, right? And customers are hesitant. So what if we just told them everything? We're going to cover this, this, and this, right? People are worried how long it's going to take. Have you ever gone to something where it took like forever? Right? So there's some hesitation there. So what if we just told them, my part takes about a half an hour? And then we asked consent. Is that something you'd be open to? You know, one of my clients has been blind added to 237 LuLaRoe groups. How does that make people feel to not have consent? Not great, right? And so that's all we're going to do. So usually what I do is set up an appointment, go over your health goals, a little bit about the company and the most popular kits. My part takes about a half an hour. You don't have to buy anything, but if you see something you like, I'll help you order it. Is that something you'd be open to? What do you guys think about that? Sounds good? Can you guys say that? Now, what happens if someone says, no, I'm not open to that? Okay, you don't have to follow up with them until they die. If they're not open to that, then they're just not they're not likely to be open. Now, you might have some people you might need to improvise with. But yeah, that's how you would set up an appointment. Now, I think Dawna's driving, so usually I ask the leader, but I don't know, guys, can we talk a little bit about sampling? Should we talk about that here or not? Pure heresy to even talk about this. Okay, so let's talk about it. Does sampling work as well as it's supposed to? What do you think? Not always, no, sometimes. Right? And I get a bunch of no. Okay, well, let's talk about the different scenarios that come up when you give samples to people. Okay? So have you got scenario number one? Have you ever sampled someone and they haven't used it? And when I'm talking about sampling, I'm not talking about like giving your sister something because she's sick. Like I'm not talking about the good human stuff. I'm talking about as a core sales strategy. Is that fair? Like the sample and follow-up strategy. That's what I'm talking about. Just so we're on the same page. Okay. So if we give someone a sample, they don't, right? And then you're like, hey, did you use it? How about now? Did you use it now? Did you use it now? Has anyone ever been in that scenario? Okay, so can we agree that's not a great scenario? Okay. Scenario number 2. Your roommate from college, you're just going through Facebook, and I have a cold, and you're like, yes, here's my chance. And don't lie, I know you've thought it before. And so you give me a sample of Breathe, but I've never used essential oils before. So I use your Breathe, but what else do I use?
Advil, cold and sinus.
Yeah. Well, I'm a Dayquil gal myself. So I'm going to use my Dayquil, my NyQuil. I'm going to drink half a bottle of wine. I'm going to sleep 14 hours, and I'm going to take your Breathe, and I'm going to put it in my vapor rub. This is what happens, right? And then you call me 2 days later, and you say, Tasha, you sound like you're feeling better. You feeling better? Yeah, I feel great. How'd the Breathe work? Right? That's what you ask. And then what do I say? How do I respond? I use Breathe, Dayquil, NyQuil, and wine. How do I respond? I'm not sure. Smells great. Yeah. I mean, it could have been the Breathe, or it could have been one of the other. I could have been this, or it could have been this, or it could have been this, right? And then how do you respond? Yeah, cool. Deer in headlights, right? And so that, can we agree that's not a great scenario? Okay, so scenario number 3 is better. I use the Breathe, I love it. And I'm like, this Breathe is awesome. What's my next question? How much? And then what do you say? Go ahead and unmute yourself.
I go through the retail, wholesale kit versus membership and a couple of oils, and
and then what happens? What happens to my face?
It falls, yeah.
Right, and then I'm like, come on, Joanna, just tell me how much it is.
Yeah.
Right, and then you're like, it's $55 plus a wholesale membership for a year. Mm-hmm. And then what do I say?
I'll think about it.
Right. Now, can we agree that's not a great scenario? Okay. Now, the 4th scenario, people do buy kits, right? Because it does work sometimes. So you give someone a sample. We do the wholesale retail kit dance, right? And then I'm like, oh, okay, we've been friends for a long time, right? Here are my issues. What should I get? Right? Have you guys had conversations like that? Or maybe you ask them about their health issues and stuff, and then you help them get a kit? Who's had that happen? Okay. So here's my question for you. Did they buy because of the sample, or did they buy because you connected the kit to their health goals? What was the core reason they decided to buy the kit?
Because you took the time to figure out what their health goals were, and they realized you wanted to actually help them.
Yeah, because basically you did an appointment, right? So I'll just argue that it's really the appointment that helps the customer the most. You guys can make your own decision on your sampling strategy, but I just think it's an important thing to bring up, because the first key here is to set an appointment. If you were to send out 10 samples, from your experience, how many people buy kits? 2, 1, none? Oh, 2? Okay, 1 or 2, fair? Okay, so how much do sending out 10 samples cost? $20, $30? So I spend $30. I sell one Family Essentials kit. I make $22. How much money have I made? Ouch. Right? And we wonder why our new builders don't stick around. And we're like, you don't want it bad enough. And they're like, no, actually, I just mathed. There's a sales principle called the 20-60-20 rule. And so here's what the 20-60-20 rule: 20% of people will buy no matter what. 20% of people will not buy no matter what. Right? So the 20% of people that will buy no matter what are the ones you're like, when you put on your Facebook feed, I sell essential oils, you're like, cool, I want some. They're going to buy no matter what. The other 20% will not buy. They're the ones who are like, tell me the molecular structure of frankincense. Okay, they're not buying no matter what. This other 60% is up to you and how you communicate with them. And this 60% is who we teach you how to sell to. And so our students, right? So we talked about a 10 to 20% closing percentage with sample and follow-up. Our students on average close between 60 and 80% because we focus on speaking to this middle percentage. What do you guys think about that? How are we doing so far? Good? Cool. Now, who here thinks they could schedule 2 appointments a week with that approach? Yeah, awesome. So that's 8 appointments in a month. At a 63% closing percentage, that's 5 enrollments a month. Whose business would be transformed if you enrolled 5 people every month and taught your team how to do that? Awesome. Cool. All right, well, let's go to tip number 2, right? So I just talked about setting up appointments. The next 4 tips I'm going to give you, you will implement in either the one-on-one or the class. Now we're big fans of one-on-ones just because they're easy. They're so easy. I could meet with you today, right? Do the usually what I do approach, where our one-on-one could be tomorrow, which is Saturday. And when will my kid arrive? Wednesday, right? Or Thursday. How awesome is that? So our goal is kits on dressers. And we want to capitalize on just helping them to get a kit on their dresser as quickly as possible. So if you guys choose to do classes, all this stuff will work for classes. But I just want to bring up the fact that we also love one-on-ones because they're so easy. And customers love them. So what do you guys think about that? Right? And then any introverts, shout out to the introverts. Okay, guess what? You can build a successful business too. It's all good, right? And so you can have a mixture of both in your business and be just fine. But I think it's really hard to invite someone to a class that's like 3 weeks from now, right? Show rate for one-on-ones is between 60 and 70%. Show rate for classes is 20 to 30%. So from my perspective, unless you like have millions of people to invite, hundreds of people to invite, I would maximize what you do, your conversion. Also increase, average order increases and closing percentage increases in one-on-ones because less chaotic. All right. So let's go into the next 4 tips. So these ones will be for your one-on-one or your class. You can implement them in both. So the next one is give an agenda so there's no surprises. So at the beginning of your appointment, so all we're going to do is say, okay, today we're going to go over your health goals, a little bit about the company, and the most popular kits. My part takes about 30 minutes. You don't have to buy anything, but if you see something you like, I'll help you order it today. Now, it's the same thing I told him earlier, but I said it again. How do you think that makes customers feel when I say that? Go ahead and unmute yourself.
They know exactly what to expect.
Yeah. And so how do you feel? Like, how would that make you feel?
I feel completely in control and that the decision to be made there is mine completely.
Yeah, absolutely. So this increases trust, it increases comfort, and it sucks all the tension out of the room.
And it starts to build a better relationship.
Totally. Right? Because I'm just going to tell you what we're doing, right? There's no surprises. People don't like surprises. And so we're just reiterating it. Right? And I'm going to tell you, you don't have to buy anything, but if you see something you like, I'll help you order it today. A funny thing happens when you tell a customer they don't have to buy anything. Like, you don't have to buy anything. You're like, don't tell me what to do. I'll buy something if I want to. Right? And then you follow it up. You have to do both parts. You don't have to buy anything, but if you see something you like, I'll help you order it today. Right? Because then, do you see how you all nodded your heads there? Because it's a fair deal as a customer, right? You don't have to buy anything, but if you see something you like, I'll help you order it today. Keyword being today. And you're like, okay, deal. And now I'm going to start making a mental running list of all the things I'm going to buy today.
Tasha.
Is that a cool place for your customer to be? Yeah.
So when I first started doing classes, I was watching all kinds of videos on how to do a class, and what I picked up that I'm kicking myself for now is learning and saying, and when by the end of tonight, you're all going to go home with your own membership. It's like, I look back now, I'm like, oh my God, that's like paring down someone's, like breathing onto somebody what I want for them.
Yeah.
You know, I love this approach so much better, because if someone tells me I don't have to buy anything, it makes me want to come forward on my own volition, not because I have to. I love that. So thank you. Very refreshing.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome. Now, sometimes you can get away with that, but you have to be like awesome. So a lot of the training videos that you'll see, they're done by amazing, amazing business people. So I will not say one bad thing about any of those training videos because they're legit. Right? Like I watched the Teresa Harding video and I was like, but like I'm a student of sales. So I know what every single line is doing. Here's the challenge. Like I've been selling for 17 years. I don't know if I could command a room like that. I don't know if I personally have the skill set to execute that presentation. Right? And so that's the difference, right? Like that presentation is killer. I can't say something bad. Like, I mean, it is, but it is so confident. And you have the way you own a room, like you have to own the room. And, you know, how many people when they first start out can own a room like that? Like to control a room by giving someone a price list, like holy smokes. Like who can keep the customer from looking at it the whole time? I don't know, right? Like that's hard. And so I think that's the difference. So I don't think it's necessarily wrong, those approaches, Sandy, but just the amount of confidence and control and the skill it takes to execute it, I think is just at a very high skill level. I don't know. What do you think about that? Is that a fair point?
I was just saying, I just wrote in, I can do it when I do a larger event. It's easier for me. But in a small group where there's 3 or 4 people, it just, I don't know, maybe it just feels too big for a small group. I don't know, but that's just where I come. Yeah. Yeah.
But the confidence there is key, right? So if you're not comfortable with it, it's going to come across and it's going to be weird. And so this is written, right? So this is the second tip. Can you guys say this stuff? Right? Like, is it pretty easy? Could you teach a new builder to say, today we're going to go over this, this, and this? Okay, and so that's kind of the difference, right? So how is sales training so far? Yucky, icky sales training. How are we doing? Are we doing okay? All right, cool. You guys ready for tip number 3? All right, awesome. Tip number 3 is to gain input. Gain input. Who's the customer's favorite topic of conversation? What's their favorite topic of conversation?
Themselves, their family.
Themselves. Now, do I spend $300 because of your story? Whose story do I spend $300 because of? Mine. But what do we start with? Ours. And what happens to their face? Like, can we talk about my favorite topic? Like, when are we done with this so we can talk about me again? Now, sometimes your story is super helpful, but isn't it only because it is also their story? Right? If it's not their story, how do they respond? Can we talk about my story again? Right. So it's risky business. Right. So I want to just give you an example. I want you to sit in the customer's shoes. And I mean, no disrespect, because we've had some awesome things happen, in our home with essential oils. But is it cool if I stick you in the customer's shoes for a moment? That's never heard about essential. Okay. So I have a client who basically has kicked fibromyalgia's butt, right, with essential oils. You guys know anyone like that or have a story like that? Yeah, awesome, right? So cool. I want you to hear it from a customer's perspective, though. Okay? So you're a customer, you've never heard of essential oils. Okay? So I used to have fibromyalgia. I had it for 10 years. I have 4 kids, a single mom, and it was draining me. Everything hurt. I used to miss work all the time. I couldn't play with them. I couldn't get down on the floor and help them. Like, I was just in constant pain. And truthfully, I was getting depressed. And then I took these vitamins, and in like 4 weeks, I was all better. What's going through your mind? Go ahead and unmute yourself and tell me what's going through your mind.
Sounds like some kind of magic pill or something. Like, it does sound really,
yeah,
something
Sounds like bullshit.
Something somebody's trying to like over exaggerate their experience,
Yeah, right. Too good to be true. Okay. So we have a couple responses. Too good to be true. Meh. I don't have fibromyalgia. How does this relate to me? Well, I'm not that sick. Have you guys ever gotten that objection? Guess where it's coming from? They're contexting your story. And then they might be like, okay, they're just trying to say it to get you by. But some of them are like, okay, interesting. But is this true? Let me go. Fill in the blank, guys. What do? Research. Have you guys noticed those of you with the most powerful stories get the most objections? What's up with that? Right? And then you're like, this yo-yo over here without any story keeps selling kits. That's not fair. I have this amazing, amazing story. No one buys anything from me. And then there's this mom who just uses it for Sharpie stains and is selling kits every day. What's up with that? Right? It's because the story potentially has a lot of concerns that it could bring up. Right? So it's just important to understand that customers buy because of their story. Now, is your story helpful? Sometimes, yes. Right? Keep it in your back pocket as a great tool, right? For the right person, right? If it's the same person. But like as a general, I just want you guys to be aware that it's causing you objections and making it a little bit harder for you. What do you guys think about that?
Well, and I think it's just like the children, like they need to learn things for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So me telling them this is what's going to work for you because it worked for me, they need to see that for themselves. And when they start just simply using the oils, if I make that process easier for them and they start using them, they're going to start seeing on their own how these can change their lives instead of me ramming it down their throat, how much these are going to change their world.
Totally. So what we want to do is, instead of putting our story front and center, right? What's the most important topic of conversation that customers care about? Themselves. So what if we put that front and center as the first thing we talk about? So we ask 3 questions, right? So we give the agenda, we ask 3 input questions. What do you want to learn about today? What else do you want to learn about today? Second question is, I don't want to bore you with information you don't care about, so tell me about your health concerns. And then the third is, what do you already know about doTERRA? Okay. So do I have someone who's willing to be a customer for me? Okay, Josie, go ahead. All right. Oh wait, Josie, here, Helen raised her hand. So let's get Helen into the mix. Is that cool? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, cool. So you have never heard about essential oils.
Okay.
Okay, so you're just going to be my customer.
Okay.
Today, Helen, we're going to go over your health goals, a little bit about the company and the most popular kits. My part will take about a half an hour. You don't have to buy anything, but if you see something you like, I'll help you order it today, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Now, what else would you like to make sure you learn about today?
I want to cover just overall wellness, preventative wellness for my family and myself.
Okay. Now, I don't want to bore you with information you don't care about. So tell me some of your health goals or concerns.
I worry about my kids and they don't eat as well as I would like. So I'd like to keep their guts healthy. Just have things for colds and want to make my own home cleaning products. I don't like buying anything from the store.
Sure. Okay. How old are your kids?
They are 11 and just turned 14 yesterday.
Okay, cool. So I wrote down gut, colds, cleaning. What else?
For me, energy. I work full time, and I have another full time job, and I'm a single mom. So energy is important.
Okay. What else?
That's it. Thank you.
That's it. Okay. So healthy guts, colds, cleaning, energy. Did I miss anything?
Nope. That's good. Not at all.
Okay, great. What do you already know about doTERRA?
I know that doTERRA is an oil that is really grounded in science and that they really do a lot of research and a lot of testing to ensure the quality of their oils, which is massively important to me as a consumer. I wouldn't buy anything without those criteria being met.
Okay, great. So let me tell you a little bit more about doTERRA and how to use essential oils.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll stop there. How'd that feel?
That was great.
That was good. What do you guys think? Easy?
I liked that you kept asking, and what else? Because sometimes we stop because we don't want to ask that because we're going to like make them feel uncomfortable or there's going to be this awkward silence. But I just like even just being able to say like, and what else? Take a minute, just think about it. Because like a lot of people don't know that essential oils can help with other areas of their lives. So if you just keep asking that question, I just like that you keep asking that question.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, I want to actually bring that up because it's a little awkward when I ask what else. Do you guys know why? No one ever does it.
Yeah. And they feel like they're put on the spot. So even by saying like, just take a minute and think about it, gives them permission to actually search kind of their body and their mind to see, oh, is there anything else, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think the reason the what else feels so weird is because we're not used to it and they're not used to it, right? You come home after a hard day and your love of your life, your spouse, your mom, your best friend or whatever says, how was your day? And you tell them and they're like, oh, that's fascinating. What else? Does that ever happen to you guys? No, right? So it's a little jarring. But when we do that for a customer, what message are we sending?
You're important.
Yeah. And I actually care. And who here got in this business because you love people and you want to help them? So what if we prove it? And did you notice that for Helen, I didn't say, oh, there's an oil for that. Would that have changed how she felt? It would have totally changed the vibe, right? Or when Helen said, oh yeah, I don't like to use cleaning products. And I said, oh, you know what? I don't like to use cleaning products either. And I totally use this stuff to help me with that. Would that have changed the atmosphere?
Would have changed the focus back to you and away from the customer.
Right. And that would have not made you feel as good.
Right.
It reminds me of one of my favorite quotes is by Zig Ziglar. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so what we want to do is the very first thing we do is we want to prove it to them how much we care. And we do that by being really present, listening, and taking great notes. No one does that. It's shocking. Okay, so how are we doing on tip number 3? Good so far? All right, cool. Tip number 4.
Sorry, can I just jump in? A few people have asked this, and I am curious about it too. When you're in a class, like so, say some people still do classes. So, like if you're in a class setting,
yeah,
how would you ask that question without? Because some people don't want to be too personal, but they probably wouldn't be too personal, I guess. But like, would you ask the same question in a class setting, say you had 3, 4, 5 people
Mhm.
there.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's still the most important part of the appointment, right? Like whether they're in a individual or a class, it doesn't change the fact that customers want to talk about themselves and they only want to talk about the things that they care about, right? And so what I would say, Kelly, is you would just do this. Okay, so I don't want to bore you guys with information you don't care about, so let's go around the room real quick and tell me about your health goals and concerns. Kelly, you go first. Write them down, right? What else? Rhonda, what about you? Holly, what about you? Sandra, what about you? Okay, great. Here's what I wrote down. Did I miss anything? And when you do it this way, like there's some concerns about people being in person, like not wanting to do that. We actually have not found that to be true.
Yeah.
When
They
it's
are there
executed
for
this
a reason, right? Like they didn't come, like they actually came because there is something in them that wants help. So they
Yes.
they are, I can see why they would share that.
Yeah, and 80% of people like load all their stuff onto Facebook. Like this is right. And when you say it, see, a lot of it is the verbiage, right? If I say, I don't want to bore you with information you don't care about, so tell me about your health goals, they understand that. They don't want to be bored with information, so then they'll tell you, right? Or you can use something like, I want to personalize this information to what you guys care about, so tell me about your health goals, right? Most people, like 95% of people will be like, that makes perfect sense to me. Here are my health goals. Now, are they going to tell you about their diarrhea problems? Probably not. That's fine. But that's irrelevant, right? That doesn't matter. And so I think there's something going on, and I don't want to spend too much time on it. It's really more appropriate for the group coaching program. But like, I'm a big anti-form person because that doesn't send the same message, right? If I said, here, write down on this piece of paper what your health goals are, does that send the same message as, Stephanie, tell me what your health goals are? I'm all ears. What else? What else? What else? And I'm taking notes. Because what we want to demonstrate is that we care and we listen, right? And we build that personal connection. And so handing someone a form doesn't do that, right? So, we really want to show up and really love on the customer. So hopefully that answers your question about how to, like Kelly, about just, transitioning in class. Even if you spend all the time on that, right? And you guys are still like, what about this 30-minute time frame? We can't do that, 30 minutes, right? But remember, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So that learning about them is the most important part. And so if you take all your time there, you can breeze through the rest of the stuff because it's going to be really easy to do. So let's talk about tip number 4. Personalizing the features and benefits. Okay, for the example of today's webinar, I'm just going to cover the Home Essentials and the Family Essentials kit. Ultimately, you guys will choose which kits you show. All right, so Helen, where are you at? There you are. Okay, you moved on my screen. Okay, Helen, let me show you what comes in our 2 most popular kits. The first oil in your kit is lemon. Have you ever gotten a cold and gotten that gross stuff in the back of your throat?
Yes.
Okay, so put a drop of lemon in your green tea, and it'll clear all that right up. I know that you have, looks like you have a kid in junior high and high school. Do they ever have art projects that they have to do for school, and they get paint places or Sharpie places, or have you ever tried to bought a gift for someone, you can't get that sticker off to save your life?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is what you'll use for that. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
Okay, awesome. The next oil in your kit is lavender. With 2 kids, 11 and 14, do you ever get stressed out or have a hard time sleeping maybe when they're out?
I actually don't. I'm not a stressy person, but
that's
stressed out.
The kids get stressed out?
Yeah, they're super high performers. The 11-year-old is really very competitive, so she gets stressed out.
Okay, so the lavender would be great to put on her feet or to diffuse in your house to help her be way more relaxed, help her to sleep better. When your 14-year-old is now starting to think about like things like college or just life as a high schooler, all those stresses, this will be great for that. So it's great for sleep. It's also great like if you get sunburned. Lavender is great for that. You mentioned that your 11-year-old plays sports?
Yes.
Okay, so they ever get like scrapes on their elbows or knees or anything like that?
All the time.
Okay. Okay. So you can take this and mix it with the Melaleuca, and it'll really help with those cuts and stuff.
What about if they find it too smelly? Because my kids are really sensitive to smell.
We can figure that out. Yeah, I think we could probably dilute it and we'll be just fine.
Okay, cool.
How does that one sound?
Sounds good. So everything sounds good so far.
Yeah, cool. The next oil in your kit is peppermint. Earlier you mentioned energy, so this is great for that. Do you ever try to work out in the morning?
I used to.
Well, just in general, you know when the alarm goes off, right? And you look at it and you're like, no, right? You can take this peppermint, put it right next to your alarm clock, put a drop in your hand when the alarm clock goes off, take 3 big whiffs like I showed you earlier. It'll open up your airways. You might actually get out of bed. So this is great for that. You mentioned you had full-time job and a business and the kids, right? So if your head ever hurts, you can put some of this back here and this will help with that.
Good.
How does that sound?
That sounds awesome.
Okay, great. So we'll go ahead and pause. How do we do?
That was great.
How long did it take?
2 minutes.
Okay, but do you want to get those?
Yeah.
Why?
I'm your top 20. I'm in your 20. I would buy anyway.
Oh, okay, fair enough. But if you weren't?
If I weren't, I would buy. Yeah, I would.
And so why?
Because you spoke to me about things that matter to me. You didn't interrupt with your own input about yourself. You really held the space for me, because you have to hold the space for your clients. You can't. That's what it means to hold the space, to hold your own comments and opinions.
Yeah. Now, I didn't tell you every single use for every oil, because at the end of the day, do you care about all the uses?
No, not at all, because I'm going to discover them myself. Once I get enough confidence with the oils, I'm going to start exploring how else can I use this.
Yeah. So my goal is not to educate you. My goal is to help you to get a kit and to see why you need a kit. Right? So I'm going to give you a couple of really simple uses that you can see yourself using. You're like, okay, yeah, I got this. Now let's say there's one that she's not going to use every day. What if I just told her the truth?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Oregano, not one you're going to use every day, but you'll be glad you have it when your kids are puking.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, yeah, good looking out. Right? So how does that sound, guys?
It's awesome.
Good, easy. So 10 oils, 6 minutes, 7 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Crazy,
right? All right, cool. So let's do the last tip, the 5th tip. Let's make it easy to buy. Let's give them 2 choices. Okay, 2 choices. All right, so we get to the end, right? And I'm like, cool, essential oils, you sound awesome. And then you're like, all right, which one do you want? How does that make me feel?
Overwhelmed.
Super overwhelmed, right? And so then what do I have to do? This is a big decision. This could change the trajectory of my whole life, I just learned. So what do I need to do?
Simplify.
Well, as a customer, what do I need? What do I think I need to do? Sorry, I didn't phrase that question right. Right? I have to think about it.
Yeah.
Or I don't want to make a bad decision. So whose advice should I get?
My husband.
Oh my gosh, guys, what's causing the husband concern?
How much money they're going to spend?
Us. Because we're making it so hard, right? What if instead, right, of showing them every single kit and giving them 9 or 10 options, we just said, okay, so do you want to start off with big bottles or small bottles? Is that a hard decision?
So Tasha, can I just share? I saw your other webinar, and I actually did this the other night on a friend I wasn't expecting to enroll, and she did buy a kit.
Awesome.
She gave me her credit card. She said, well, what are the small bottles like? I said, here's a small bottle, here's a big bottle. She bought on the spot. She's
awesome.
Super excited. So I tried exactly what you did, but I also tried doing the one-on-one, and I didn't have a second option, and I think I made a mistake there, because then she came back with, I have to check with my husband.
Yeah, you have to have 2 options. Always have 2 options, right? I won't get into the science behind it, but always have two options. Just, yeah, stay with two, right? Because it's not a hard decision.
And you can create the two options from what they have said, because you don't have you don't necessarily have to have like a set of two options that you do for every single person. Because if I know I'm going to meet with someone who needs a major transformation in their home and they're keen on that, then I'm not going to offer them Home Essentials and the family physician. I'm going to actually offer them the Home Essentials and the Natural Solutions.
Right.
So it all depends on who your customer is too, and what you feel they need from their feedback for you, you know?
Sure. Well, also, I think it's even more so your skill set. So if most people here are closing at 10 to 20%, we're just going to start off with family essentials and home essentials. But, you know, the better you are, ultimately, you know, you should be giving, like, letting customers choose, right? And so some of it's just a skill level thing. There's a thing in the chat, 3 options. The research and the science shows 2 options. So I know that some people are like, oh, 3 options, and they'll probably pick the middle. All the stuff that we teach is researched through social science and sales and all that stuff. And so the research shows 2. So we go with 2. Ultimately, your statistics are going to be what's going to guide your decision. So you can test it. You can test 10 appointments with 3 choices, test 10 appointments with 2 choices, see what comes back. But we teach 2. All right, now, 2 choices, small bottles or big bottles. Do they need to ask their husband about that decision? No. Now, if they can't afford it, then we can just give them 2 more options that are a little bit less, right? So it's no big deal. What we're just going to do is we're going to find something that they're comfortable with getting, so they can get started right away. Yeah, so those are the five tips. What do you guys think? So I have a question for you. We had a list of reasons that customers don't buy. So let's see if they still hold up. Okay. So you tell me, if you have these concerns, do they still hold up? Are you worried about the money? No? Okay. Was it too much information to process? So I can cross those 2 off. Do you need to think about it? Do you need to do more research? Do you need to talk to your husband? Nope. Are you afraid of commitment? Nope. Okay. Are you worried this is going to be a huge life change? Are you thinking, I want to see how this works? Are you skeptical? Wait, you just trust me? Do you only want 1 to 2 oils? Do you want to go and see if you can find it cheaper? Are you thinking that you need to customize something? Do you need to think about it? Are you worried about your membership? Are you motivated to figure out your credit card problem? Probably, yeah. So is there any reason that your customer would not buy? What do you guys think? Will they buy? Yeah, all right. So we got rid of all the objections? Cool. Boom. Mic drop. Okay, so just a quick recap. Right, set an appointment, give an agenda, gain input, personalize the features and benefits, and give choices of 2. Good? All right, cool. Now I know there's a ton of questions flying in the chat. There is literally no way I could answer all of your questions in an hour and a half. So in the interest of time, I'm just going to go ahead. Did I earn my right to show you the program? Okay, cool. So I'm going to show you the program. If you guys have additional questions, that's what the group coaching is for. So we will absolutely answer all your questions, but we're just not going to be able to do it in the scope of this webinar in order to stay on time. So yeah, let me go ahead and let me guys show you this. So I know you're super sad because you're like, no, don't end the training. I have so many questions. And we have a quote for you from Barney of How I Met Your Mother. When I'm sad, I stop being sad and I be awesome instead. And so the next step for you, if you found this really spoke to you, the next step is for you to learn the foundational skills for selling and leading with support. And so what makes Emerge different, and Dawna mentioned this earlier, is this isn't just what works for me, it's just what works. We have a deep foundation in science and customer psychology. It's really focused on, everything is written from the customer perspective. That's the question we're going to keep asking you. What will help the customer? And we're actually here for you. So we have live components so that we can answer your questions and help you to troubleshoot. It's built for people with no sales experience. So if you don't have sales experience, don't worry, we have you covered. If you do have sales experience, it's probably kind of hard for you to teach people. And so it'll be broken down in a way that'll make it really easy for you to teach it to your team. This is a skill set program, not a system. And so what skills will you learn? So let me just go ahead and show you real quick. So there's a set of skills. So we're going to teach you, develop the skill of time management. Do you do what you say you're going to do? Do you have a plan for each week? And do you stay focused on your priorities? The second skill we're going to focus on is your appointment set goal. Do you reach your appointment set goal on a weekly basis? So we'll teach you how to increase your show rate, how to set appointments in different scenarios, and what customers are thinking. Closing percentage with your product line and the way your target market works, closing percentage should be between 60 and 80%. So we're going to help you develop the skill of making sure that customers actually get the stuff. Average order, are they buying one or two things, or are they buying kits? So we'll help you to build that skill. Customer retention is something that you guys talked about earlier. So in your second appointments, how can we get more people there? We talk about that in scheduling. Are people reordering? What do I say when I call them? How do I explain the promotion so they understand? How do I do that second appointment so that customers really get it and they continue to order? Skill number 6 is referrals. So are you getting referrals consistently from over half of your people? This is a skill set. Referrals just don't happen. And so we'll teach you exactly how to do that, and verbiage for hosting that makes a lot of sense for customers. The first 6 weeks is about putting your own oxygen mask on. Week 7 and 8 is about putting it on your team. And so then we'll move into recruiting. So we'll take the same super simple principles that we talked about today, and we'll apply those to recruiting. And then we'll also talk about training and coaching your team. So how do you train someone who's new? How do you set expectations? How do you build that relationship, and how do you develop their skills? What do you guys think would happen to your business if you mastered those skills? You think that would change things a little bit? All right, cool. Let me minimize this again. Here's the thing. Okay. All right. So all of those skill sets, right? It's broken up into 8 weeks of modules, like online modules that are anywhere between 2 and 10 minutes. So they're super short, and it's about 40 minutes per week on all the different videos. So you can get the online, or you can do private group coaching, which is what we recommend. Online course completion for most people is like 3%. Our rates are over 50% because we have this group coaching. And so basically the way group coaching works is one of our coaches will be in there guiding you. So every single week for 9 weeks, we'll have a live Zoom call, very much like this. So we'll be able to troubleshoot, answer questions, practice, deep dive into specific topics for doTERRA. Some of the ones that came up, right, that aren't really written into the course, but we'll definitely cover in group coaching. Also, there's a Facebook group for you to continue to ask questions and learn from other people. If you are a leader, just remember that this stuff might be easy for you, but the group coaching is helpful because then you know what kind of questions your team has. So I think that's important too, especially for leaders. And yeah, we'll just make sure that we support you through the entire thing. It's super interactive. And now you're freaking out because you're like, holy cow, this sounds awesome. We know that online courses for 8 weeks run about $1,000, support another $1,000. So that would be, that'd be a significant investment for you guys. But we want to really make sure, our mission is to make sure that high quality sales training is accessible to people at all levels. So these are the numbers in US dollars. I have the Canadian dollar conversion rate here written down, and I'll tell you guys. So all 8 weeks plus group coaching is $297, $297 for lifetime access. You can also split it up into 4 monthly payments of 75 US. So we take everything in US dollars. So let me go ahead and tell you the exchange rate based on, I think it was Wednesday's exchange rate. Kristen, if you could put this in the chat, that'd be awesome. So what we calculated is the 420 Canadian for paid in full, or 4 payments of 105 Canadian. And so it roughly breaks down to about 10 enrollments. And so, I mean, who thinks that if you mastered all those skills, that you could enroll 10 people in 2 months? And so that's what it would take to return that investment. So let me show you. I'll show you that link in a second. Now, some of you guys have asked about the Natural Solutions Kit, LLV, big classes. So it's not included in the regular thing. We don't want to make the regular course too overwhelming, but we do have an upgrade package. So basically, if you enroll in the next 3 by Monday, right? So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 4 days, and you put the code Dawna in and you pay in full, then we'll manually add this course that you'll start watching after week 4 to help you to increase your average order, you know, how to talk about things like supplements that are more complicated and bigger classes. So that's kind of an incentive for you guys to sign up. The other incentive that I do need to talk about quickly is HST. I just learned about HST this week. You guys have to deal with HST? Yeah? Okay, so my understanding of the rules, first 30,000 sold in Canada is exempt from HST. Yeah? So I calculated that to 71 enrollments. So just as a heads up, once we hit that 30K, we'll have to trigger HST. So I guess that's just kind of another reason if you want to save that 13% or 6%, depending on where you live, that would be kind of another reason to jump on it fast sooner rather than later, because those taxes will kind of go down to you. So yeah, love Canada. We love Canada. Canadians are the best. They're cooler than most Americans. Now you'll have access to this replay, Dawna. So the webinar registration link that you guys got to register for this, what we'll do is we'll switch this and it'll trigger the replay immediately by the end of the day. So if you are watching this replay and the 6-1 group has passed, just go to this link here, emergesalestraining.com/upcoming events, and it will tell you when the next group is available. So if it's after the fact. Now, if you're watching this replay and you registered, right, as long as you register and pay in full within 4 days of when you registered for this webinar, we will honor the fast action bonus, but you need to email us at team@emergesalestraining.com because we won't be looking for it. So if you're watching the replay and you registered, watch the replay, register for the course, just email us and we will hook you up with that course. Some frequently asked questions, and then I'll take what other questions you guys have. When can I start watching the videos? Right away. So, you know, if you register for it right now, 11:27 on the West Coast, you could have this whole thing done in 6 hours if you wanted to, and then just be waiting for the group coaching. Or you could just go at your own pace. How long do I have access to the course? You have lifetime access once it's paid for. If you do the payment plan, you'll still get full access to the course. Just make sure you keep on your payment plan. If you can't make it live, everything is recorded and it's still totally worth it. We do guarantee the program. So if you have watched the first 4 weeks in the first 30 days and you don't think it's worth it, or you try it and you don't think it's worth it, then go and let us know. We'll give you a refund. We stand behind our training program. We do not have an affiliate program. It's not a question that people always like ask out in front, but I just always address it because it's lingering. Your leaders do not have an incentive other than your success for promoting this program. And I think that's important for a couple of reasons. First, it's because that you know the recommendation is truly coming out of like, this is actually going to be helpful. And the other reason is we want to keep our programs affordable. If we had affiliate programs or promotion programs or referral programs, then we would have to double our prices, and we really want to make sure that it's accessible to everyone. You don't need to buy anything else to implement this program. It's skill sets, not systems. So you're just going to use stuff you already have, right? So hopefully you already have a planner. Hopefully you already have roller bottles on hand to bribe customers with. Those are the things that you're going to need to implement this program. As far as me teaching the groups, I wish I could, but I can't anymore. We have a team of 9 coaches now. 9 coaches. Yeah, 9 coaches. They're awesome. They will take good care of you, and they do all the group coaching. My focus is one-on-one coaching, content development. And the last question is, can I switch groups? If you guys switch groups, Kristen would lose all of her hair. So we don't do group switching. So just make sure whatever you sign up for, that you sign up for the one you want. If you get behind, you'll have access to all the recordings and everything, so you're okay. If you want to add a group later, then you just pay the difference between the online course and the group if you want to add a second group. And I can just show you really quickly the link, and then I'll answer whatever questions are there, because I know we're kind of running out of time. Okay, so here's the link, and I think Chris put it in the chat so that you guys can register. So if you just click where it says Buy Direct Sales, your Direct Sales Foundation, choose your group. You just click down here, pick whichever group there is. Right, it'll show this page here. You can just click where it says I already have an account. Well, you would create a new account. I'm going to do I already have an account. And then right here where it says have a coupon, write Dawna. And even if you do the payment plan, still write Dawna. It'll give you $1 off. But more importantly, we'll be able to let Dawna know and provide her a list with who on her team is doing it. Then you'll put in your credit card number, and you'll have instant access to all the modules. You can start watching them right away. Okay. It's 11:30, so I'll stay on for extra questions because I had to jam there for a minute. So do you guys have any questions about it? And if, do we lose Dawna? Oh, there you are. Okay.
I'm here.
Okay. Is there anything that you wanted to share?
No, I do want to say thank you, though. I'm getting private messages to me and going, Dawna, this is so amazing.
Cool.
It's genius, and it's just so common sense. And I was saying to someone, I feel like I need to apologize that I haven't had this for my team. So I am so grateful to you, Tasha. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. We're so glad. We love you guys. Are amazing. Every time I write a script, though, I buy more product. So. So register for the course to pay for my doTERRA habit. I'm just joking. There's a question, is the course specific to doTERRA? So when I wrote the course, I was working mostly with doTERRA, so the examples are there. But here's kind of my disclaimer. This is a skill development course, not a how to sell doTERRA course. And so what I mean by that is we encourage you to make your own decisions for your business. Right? So in the examples, we'll obviously use doTERRA examples, but it's not a hard and fast. So like one of the questions always comes up, well, Tasha says sell the home essentials and the family essentials. Well, no, Tasha says give a choice of 2 kits. Here's how to decide how to do a choice of 2 kits, right? Like, is the course specifically written to sell supplements? No. But do we teach you how to build value so you can apply it to supplements? Yes. Does that make sense? So the course is set up that way. The examples will be doTERRA just because that's what we're familiar with. In the group coaching, there will be doTERRA specific groups. Those are doTERRA groups. So everybody in the group will be doing doTERRA. Now remember, we're not doTERRA wellness advocates, but that actually is your benefit, because when you ask us a question, we'll say, what do you mean by that? We're going to force you to explain it to us in a way that we can understand as customers. Right? And so there are specific things that we will and we won't advise on. Ultimately, what you do is going to be your decision. Like, we're not going to say this is exactly what you need to do to sell doTERRA. We're going to talk about here's how you communicate with customers. Right? Because then you can apply it everywhere. We want to build your critical thinking skills and your skill sets, not just give you a thing and leave you without the ability to write the scripts yourself. So yeah. Any other questions? Lindsay, I think if you register within the 4 days, we'll give you the course. Yeah, that's fine. So we'll just need to make sure. Kristen, how far are we built out on groups?
June 8th right now.
June 8th. Okay. Lindsay, we'll figure it out for you. Don't worry. We'll have you covered. Kristen will work with you on that. Any other questions? I feel like I saw someone raise their hand earlier. I just want to make sure I got it. Holly, I thought you raised your hand and then it went away. Oh, cool. Okay. We got it. Anything else? And we do cover the LRP customer retention stuff in there. Oh yeah, and it starts on the 31st, your group meets every Wednesday, yes. If you choose 6-1, the group meets on Thursdays. And then the one thing I do want to tell, Kristen, where are we at for the 531 group?
26.
Okay, so our goal is to cap them at 60. So if you want to be in there with your buddies, I would move, because we will turn off the registration once we hit 60 and we'll funnel people into the next group. With your team, I mean, there was like 140 people on live today, right? We have 2 presidential diamond calls on Tuesday. So I just want to be transparent with you guys that as soon as our goal is to keep the groups manageable so that you guys get attention, so it doesn't get crazy. So whatever group you want, I would just recommend that you go for it as soon as you can to get in the group you want, because once it hits 60, we'll turn it off and we'll move it to the next. We'll always have something available for you. So that's not something you need to worry about. But, if you want to be with your friends, then just, yeah. All right, cool. Anything else? Dawna, anything else that you think I need to cover that we've talked about offline?
No, you're amazing. Thank you.
Okay, cool. I just asked her that because I like the ego boost.
Yes, you'll get it from me, Tasha. Freaking right.
All right, cool. Well, if you guys need anything, you can email Kristen at emergesalestraining.com. Thank you so much for staying on the line today. Oh, shoot. There was some in the other Q&As. I think there's still a few more. Oh, you're doing the wave, different times.
Yeah, I asked you the one question. That was the only one I saw.
Okay. Do I oversee the success of the other coaches? Yes, absolutely. They all report to me. We do spot check-in, role playing, just like every, I'm a sales manager. So, will you get someone with 17 years of sales training experience that wrote the course? No, but you're also paying $100 for 9 weeks. Is that too snarky to say? Or I don't know, maybe. So yeah, our coaches are awesome. They're all handpicked by me. They're the best people I've ever worked with. They're fully 100% capable of taking you through the course and helping you get great results. And if there's any question that you ask that they don't know, they'll just call me and we'll figure it out. So we got you covered. Last question, if you do the monthly option, don't get the bonuses. Yes, absolutely. You can pick it up later. It's $60 for that. All right, cool. So hopefully I got all your questions. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to hop off and we'll see you guys in the next course. Cool. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.